This is the Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show on podcast. Hi, is that Sarah?
Hi, Claire.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you that you're going to speak to us and tell us about your personal experience. Tell us a bit about when you were diagnosed with a brain tumour.
It was back in 2012, September 2012, and I'd been singing in bands and things and was in full health. I was actually singing whilst I was pregnant, and I had my little girl 8 weeks prior to the discovery of the brain tumour. And it all came about. I've had a few headaches and things during pregnancy, but obviously put it down to being pregnant. And looking back now, there was just one time when I was pregnant, when I was at a gig, and I felt really unbalanced, and I felt like I was going to fall into the crowd, and I had this headache and had to come home and couldn't do the gig. And looking back in retrospect now, I think that's what it was. And like I say, 8 weeks after having my little girl, I dropped my kid off at my other little boy off at school, came back home and thought, right, I'll nip to the loo, of all things glamorous, and nipped upstairs to the loo whilst Lily was downstairs in a little bouncer chair. Luckily, she couldn't walk or anything. She was safe in a bouncer chair. And whilst I was sat on the loo, the room just started to flicker like an old picture screen movie. And I thought, oh, this is strange. And I don't know how long it went on for, because I can't remember much about it. Obviously, I fell to the floor afterwards. And I can remember thinking, I need help. And I thought, I can't get downstairs because my mobile's downstairs. And I must have fallen to the floor, bumped my head in the bathroom. During the day, sometime in semi-consciousness, crawled across the top of the stairs into Lily's room, where I was sick, laid back on my back, which is dangerous anyway, and in a state of unconsciousness from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4:30 in the evening. They think that I'd knocked myself out because I'd just collapsed in a heap onto the floor, but I think because where the bump was, it was on my right-hand side of the front of my head. I must have fallen forward onto the tiled floor in the bathroom and bumped my head and knocked myself out. Lily was downstairs, and then she was discovered when my other half came home, and the phone was ringing, and Lily was crying, and he couldn't find me, and Freddie hadn't been picked up from school, so he was thinking, what's going on? He went round all the rooms in the house, couldn't find me until he came to the last room, Lily's room, where I was laid on the bed, and he thought I'd knocked myself out somehow, and he thought I was unconscious. And he was saying, Sarah, trying to bring me round, and there was just nothing. So he called the paramedics. The paramedics came to the house. Excuse me. I can't remember any of this, and apparently they were trying to get me on a stretcher. I was fighting, trying to get off the stretcher, because I think, semi-conscious, I was thinking I need to get to Lily, and they said that I kept trying to get up and get off the stretcher. So they had to sedate me, take me out to the ambulance. My little boy saw me being carried out on a stretcher to the ambulance, which wasn't nice. And then all I can remember is waking up in intensive care with all the room sheeted off in white light sheets. It was like in a movie. And everybody, all ready, dressed to go to theatre sort of thing, with their head things on and their things over their mouths. And I can't remember much about it. And I can remember just saying to my other half, I've got a brain tumour. I need to have an operation. And he says, you've had the operation, darling. It's done.
Wow.
I know. I didn't know that it had all been done and
gosh, that must have been so weird.
Taken away.
Yeah.
I was just away with the dicky birds. And I think something major like that, obviously it's a massive shock, and it's something that you just don't suspect. I was in the height of health. I was in the height of happiness, and it just came blam out of the blue.
When was this?
It was September 2012. It still feels very
fresh.
Raw.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I still every day wake up and feeling, am I well? And I've got a box, I have a drawer full of, Tom calls it rabbit food, health things and supplements and that sort of thing, because once you've been so unwell, right, like near death's door, because the surgeon said if it hadn't have happened at the time it did, because you had a meningioma that grows ever so gradually over time, it got to such a size, it was the size of a satsuma in the front left-hand side of my brain. It was pressing on a main artery, and I could have just had a brain hemorrhage upstairs in the bathroom and died, and nobody would have known, because I didn't know it was there. I'd had to, and then you start thinking, did I have any warning signs? And then I thought, well, yes, there was that time where I was pregnant and I felt ill. And then the surgeon said to me, actually, with meningiomas, they can grow ever so slightly over a number of years. So it could have even been there when Freddie was born, which is back in 2007. And I can remember going into hospital shortly after Freddie was born, where they had to take me into the hospital from home with sunglasses on because I had an aversion to light. And my head was hurting that much, they had to give me morphine. And I came out of the hospital thinking, what was that? And they just said, oh, it was a viral infection, because obviously they don't think to scan your head.
No.
And that's the scary thing. And that's the thing afterwards when I came out of it. And I was very lucky, and I always feel very lucky that it wasn't the big C word, it wasn't cancer. And there's always people that are worse off than you. And I feel very lucky that I'm still here to watch my babies grow up. But the thing is, nobody ever thinks that it could be that, because you don't really hear about brain tumours that often.
No,
and
not until you have one, and then you hear about it all the time.
Yeah,
but
you do. It's like you get pregnant, and then everybody that you see walking down the road is pregnant, sort of thing. You're looking out for it. But up until that point, I'd never heard of anything like that. It was just completely foreign to me. And then after the discovery and the removal of the brain tumour, I thought, I haven't got cancer. Get over it, Sarah. You've got a new baby to cope with. You've got a family. You're very lucky. And then I was in bed one night, and my left hand went into a fist, so tight, and my nails were quite long, so it hurt. And it woke me up, and I went into a full-on seizure. And Tom obviously didn't know what was going on and called the paramedics again, and they came and they said, oh, it's due to the removal of the tumour and the swelling in your head, the scarring that it's left has caused the seizures. And then I had a few more. And then that was horrendous, because I was scared of being left on my own. I was scared of bathing Lily. I was scared of going for a walk, even in the countryside where we live, because I don't go on my own anywhere. I'm still to this day a little bit aware of that. I think that'll never go away, even though it's now, touch wood, under control with the medication. But the horrendous part, Claire, was coming out of hospital and being a bit of a guinea pig with the drugs, and we'll try this and we'll try that. And then whilst I was in the hospital, they gave me a drug called phenytoin, which is a toxic drug. Did you have that?
No, but I do know. Oh,
they did try you on that, but it was so bad. You only lasted 2 or 3 weeks, and I said, look, I'm sorry.
Choice that I heard. Apparently, it's a surgeon's choice, and they like to use it in surgery because it stops the seizures straight away. Oh, right. But then when you try and get off it, it causes seizures. So it's like a bit of a double-edged sword. So I was like, oh, God, what next, sort of thing. So they tried different medication on me. Then it was the dosage. Then it was the timing of the dosage and eating right. And so I was doing all that I could to just get well quickly so that I could enjoy my life.
Which tablet have you settled down on?
I'm now on Tegretol, and I'm now on Keppra, which seems to suit me well. It seems to work quite well, does that? I don't have any side effects as such, touch wood. I think it just takes your body time to settle, because I was one of these people that didn't really take a paracetamol for a headache. I'd just be like, oh, I'll be fine, sort of thing, it'll go away. And it's still, to this day, I have a little pill box, and I have a ringer on my phone. So 3 times a day, the ringer goes off on my phone, so I have that everywhere I go. So even if I go out for a walk, I'll take my mobile with the ringer on, or I'll take my little Dosset box with my pills in. So it's just altering your life. But like I say, the main thing for me is I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I'm here. That's a small price to pay. Before I was taken into surgery, they had to put me back one day or a few hours, because there was a little boy or a little girl that went into surgery with the brain tumour that was obviously high risk. So I'm in my 30s. If it was my time to go, it was my time to go. But luckily it wasn't. I'm very lucky that I'm still here, and I'll always feel that way. I'll forever be thankful now.
When you'd had all this done, and as we know that you are a singer, did you have any problems with your singing after your surgery? Did you have any physical problems after the surgery?
No, not as such. I mean, I did. When it's anything to do with your brain, you've probably gone through this yourself. Your brain's very clever at tricking you, and it can make you very nervous of things, and you can start to think, oh, can I do this? Am I okay doing that? Because you've gone through that massive shock of a discovery of a brain tumour anyway, you start to think, is it my brain that, is that the reason that I can't do things? And it makes you nervous of doing things. And the thing that I found helped me so much was going back to something that I knew, i.e. the singing, where I felt safe and comfortable, and it was something that I knew, something where I could get lost in the music and just switch off and enjoy it and relax and get a little bit out of reality. Because even before I had the brain tumour, I used to do singing to get out of reality anyway, the mundane 9 to 5. I'd go and do a gig and just think, wow, this is brilliant, I'd be a singer for the night sort of thing. And even so now, more so, I use the singing to do that because it's my like little rest bag. It's the way that I can think I'm back to not how I used to be. I still am.
But you can do your dream.
Yeah, I still am. Even though I'll never live the same as I lived before, because I'm always aware, and I'm aware of each day, enjoying each day, and enjoying watching my kids grow up, and how vulnerable life really is. Everybody says to you, your health is really important, and you think when you're young, oh yeah, I know that, and I never smoked and I didn't drink much anyway. But when you've gone through such a trauma, you really start to think your health, without your health, you've got not much really. You can't really enjoy life. But the music has helped.
So you were singing before this as well, in terms of, was that the job you were doing before, or did you have another job as well on top?
I had another job. I was a secretary, lots of multitasking and that sort of thing, doing lots of things at once, typing really fast. I was very quick. And then I left that for a while to have my children. So I wasn't actually working full-time. I was in the band, doing gigs with the band, which they were very high up there gigs, big gigs, balls and that sort of thing. So I was doing that. But to be fair, I don't think I could go back to an office job now because I think I'd struggle with the multitasking. I like a calm environment now. I'm not one for stress anymore. I like to just keep calm and enjoy what I'm doing and have no stress.
I was going to say, did you, in terms of obviously with music, it gets louder and you are surrounded by a lot of noises and stuff. Did you have any trouble with that? Or did you find that you had no problems with that?
No trouble with that whatsoever, because with the epilepsy, one of the things that I'd heard of with epilepsy was obviously flashing lights.
Yeah.
But my neurologist said, you're not going to suffer with that because we know, that whereabouts in the brain, it's not going to cause, the flashing lights aren't going to cause you any harm or whatsoever. But you still start thinking, oh God, I hope not. You're taking their word as gospel because when you're in hospital, I can remember there was a time in hospital where I couldn't talk and I felt like I was locked in my own body. My mum and dad came to hospital and they were asking me questions, and my mum ended up saying, I can't remember this, but she told me afterwards, stop asking her questions because she can't answer you. And she says it was one Sunday and I was just going, and I couldn't physically speak. And my mum said, I just want my Sarah back. I want my daughter back. So that was all very scary. Then I had a physio came and she said, oh, she may be blind in one eye, which was all very scary because on that night I was still in hospital and I thought, I'm going to go blind. When am I going to go blind? And it's funny now looking back, but it wasn't then because I was thinking, when am I going to lose sight in my left eye? And you're taking every word that the surgeon and the nurses were fabulous and the surgeons were fabulous. They're looking after you, coming in saying, are you okay? And just because I was crying and sobbing and I was so upset and not knowing what was going to go on next. But when I couldn't speak, I can remember looking at everybody's eyes and trying to read the faces at the end of the bed as to whether it was a good thing or a bad thing when they were looking at me. And I was thinking, am I okay? Am I not okay? Because I couldn't speak. So you're just so reliant. Your life is in their hands and your recovery was in their hands. But then when you first out of hospital, you are left on your own a little bit to get on with life because there's so many people that are ill. They can't just mollycoddle, look after you. You're not the only one that's poorly. You've got to get on with it. But I can remember searching the internet, which I shouldn't have done, just trying to look for somebody that had been through it and got out the other end. And all the things that I found on YouTube were people that were really poorly, that were dying with it, or really that hadn't really made a full recovery and had come out the other end. And I was searching for that, and I can remember thinking, I want to find somebody that's been through it to give me a little bit of inspiration that it's not all going to be down and depressing. I'm going to get through it. And that's why I decided to do the YouTube singing, because I want to show people that you can get through when life gets you down and you are near death's door. There is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel and you can come through it, as long as you stay positive. And I think that's the thing with me. I've got to keep positive and not think, oh, poor me. I've never really been like that anyway, to think that. I think it's a blessing in disguise, to be fair, that it's now shown me that life's fragile and enjoy it while you can. So it just changes your perspective on things a hell of a lot. And life's to be enjoyed. There's so many wonderful things. Like, I've got into Pilates now, which I'd never have done before. And I have moments where I look out of the window and think, oh, what a beautiful place, and look at that beautiful bird on this. And it sounds so funny.
No, it's not. It's true. You suddenly, everything looks amazing.
The
grass looks amazing.
The moments
you do.
that you never probably appreciate, where before I was dashing left and centre.
Yeah. You have time to sit still.
You're watching the world go by, but you never really stop to think, how wonderful is life? And it's quite deep.
It is. I absolutely understand, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure others will understand, as you do suddenly look at things completely differently.
Absolutely. But I'm very lucky. I'm so lucky. But I want to do all that I can to help people that have been through the same as me, or are going through the same as me, or have children that are going through the same, that you just have a bit of a lost feeling where you think, where do I turn? What do I do? And I'd love to be able to help people and just say it can get better. You can. I still have the epilepsy, but like I say, it's hopefully, touch wood, being monitored and being looked at. I'm safe now with the medication and stuff, but there was a time where I thought, oh my God, am I going to have to be like this for the rest of my life? And same with a brain tumour. I was thinking, oh God, is it going to grow back? But now I have checks every 6 months to see if it's growing back. If it does grow back, they can zap it from outside, apparently. So I know, at least I'm aware that it's there now, and they can monitor it. I think the scary part was discovering that it was there in the size it was, the size of a satsuma that was in my head, and had squished my brain to the back. How was my brain functioning with that there? It just makes you think, how do I still function normally with that there? Going on abroad on holiday in a plane and things.
It does get a bit confusing as to how does that fit? Where did that go? And
I was scared to look at the X-rays and things at first, but it took me a few years later, and it's not only till recently that I actually asked my neurologist, who's really lovely, if I could look at the scans again, and he went, yeah, no problem, because at first I was scared. I was scared to look at the scans. I was scared to look online. I was scared to even talk about it, because I was scared to talk about anything. And I can remember doing my first YouTube video, and I've still got it on my computer, and I wanted to help people so much. And I started to talk about it, but I just burst into tears. Aww. And I was talking like a little mouse. My mum said, you were really quiet whenever you spoke. You were really quiet because you weren't confident, and maybe it was the brain healing. But I've still got that YouTube video there just to remind me how far you can come, how good your body is at repairing itself. If you give it time, you've got to give it time. And I'm like a bull at a gate. I wanted everything quickly. I wanted to get well, and know your head is one of the things that takes the longest to heal.
I must say, listening to your story as Claire's mum, it's almost identical.
Literally,
You've gone over exactly what happened in our family with Claire. Yeah, unfortunately, when she came round and came out of hospital, she had a really bad problem with word finding.
Really?
And singing was the one thing that she always loved, and she latched back onto, and it really helped.
It does. Yeah, because I did find that at first. When I first had the medication and things, I thought it was the medication was too strong, and it probably was because I was on the phenytoin. I found it difficult to be in a social situation, say if you had lots of people around and they were all trying to talk to you at once. I found it very difficult to keep up with the conversations, and I was, like he said just there, find the words to keep in the conversation, or the words that you were thinking of wouldn't quite come to you as quickly as normal. And I just put it down to the medication and the fact that it was probably too strong, and it was making me stutter a little bit and that sort of thing. But it may have been that, and it may have been the brain healing as well, because like I say, when I was in hospital, and when I first came out of hospital, relatives came round to see me, and they said afterwards, you were talking really quiet, like a little mouse, and you weren't quite speaking properly. But you need your brain to function, everything really. But it just took that time to heal, and I just had to be. I was in a calm situation at home. I had a lovely other half and family around me to support me, and that's all I needed, a calm environment, not a rowdy environment, somewhere where I could just It was like therapy. I could just get better slowly and gradually. And then once I started seeing an improvement, I saw light at the end of the tunnel, and I started to think, this is helping, and the singing was helping. So I just kept going back to the singing, and I thought, I'll put another one up. I'll do another one today. I feel like having a sing-song. It's making me feel. It still makes me feel good to this day. But getting the response that I have from the supporters, and the supporters, like some of them hopefully will be listening today, have been absolutely fantastic. Beautiful people that really care about you. You hear a lot of bad in the world, and a lot of bad is reported, but you don't hear about the lovely people that are out there that really bend over backwards to help you and support you. And I'm very lucky to have a lot of people like that have listened to my songs, that have listened to my story. Like I had a lovely message this morning just saying, we're so blessed to have you. I'm blessed to have you in my life. You've really helped me. I had a lovely message from a lady the other week where she's going through bad depression and she feels like she daren't go out. And she said, listening to your music is really helping me cope with things at the moment. Things like that. That's amazing. Nice, yeah. It's just brilliant. I'd never share the music before. I'd go to a gig, I'd get a round of applause, I'd come home, and that would be it. Whereas now I just like to share my music. If people enjoy it, that's fantastic. That just makes it feel all the better for me. And soul music is a great way of expressing, getting that emotion over, and that's why I've chosen to do the soul music, something that I've always loved and something that I've always wanted to share, but not really being able to do at the party gigs and the function gigs, because a lot of them are a little bit obscure and what you know not normally hear. So I've dug out the vinyls and started doing that, which has been great.
Right. So people can go and have a listen on your YouTube, and just to remind people again, what's the username?
YouTube.com, and it's a very weird name. It's called Diddy, D-I-D-Y, 5848. I don't know why I set it as that.
Do you know what? I've done that with things.
I must have been drugged up, I think.
It's before you even thought about putting a video on, isn't it? It's when
I think it probably was. I was looking at the videos today, and the first one I put up was January 2014, which is not long. But to get such a response, it's just fabulous. It just makes me happy. It's like therapy. And you'll know as a singer, when you sing and when you enjoy singing so much, you've got to do it. If somebody plays a guitar and they don't play for years and years, you'd miss it so much. You'd want to get back to it, and just for the love of it. And that's all it is really for me, for the love of it. And if anything comes out of it, that's a bonus for me. But at the moment, I think I'll be singing until I'm old and grey if I live that long. I think I will, if I can still hold a tune.
Thank you so much for telling us your story.
Yes, take care, my dear.
Bye.
Have a lovely one. Bye.
This is the Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty M Brain Tumours talk show on podcast.